Hey guys, Jim Edwards here, along with, no, screw that. Stu, do the introduction.
Hey everybody, Stu Smith here along with,
Jim Edwards.
and welcome to Sales Copy and Content Marketing Hacks podcast done by Jim Edwards and Stu Smith, which is part of the Jim Edwards Method at jimedwardsmethod.com. Now,
Hey, that was pretty good.
Today we're going to talk about content creation, but it is focused on questions, and you owe it to yourself. If you have a frequently asked question, whether you get it through social media, direct messaging, instant messaging, emails, phone calls, whatever that is, you owe it to yourself to write an article on that question, because then you can easily answer it by sending someone a link, sending someone to that page, and then obviously that page should have something at the bottom that has some sales copy that will drive them to your store.
That's right.
It is easy one-on-one marketing, and it's a great way to incorporate one-on-one conversations into your business that actually produce sales at a higher rate than pretty much anything else out there,
While saving a crap ton of time, because you don't have to answer the same question by hand over and over and over and over and over, which becomes quite tedious and causes you to want to wring people's necks and ultimately makes you want to quit your business and put on a hairnet and start making a living by asking people, would you like fries with that? Which none of us want to do, having been there. So the big thing to understand is that questions are also the ultimate source, not only of one-on-one marketing and time saving in your help desk, but they're also the number one source, easiest source of actual fodder you can use to create content on demand. And so how many articles a month, Stu, do you typically write, would you say? Just of any type and from any source? How many articles do you
I
write?
usually do 3 a week for military.com, and I'll post probably one new one on my own site.
Okay, so 4 articles a week, 16 articles a month.
Yes.
Let's say 480 or no, a lot.
Yes.
So,
yeah, I do.
Of those 16 articles, and I know you do, and you've done it for years and years and years. Of those articles, what percentage of those would you say are either full or in part you simply answering a question somebody has asked?
At least 50%.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So 2 articles a week with somebody.
Yes. So usually the way I work it is I actually have a feature article I do on Monday, an Ask Stu article that I do on Wednesday, and then a workout of the week article that I do on Friday. And then for my personal site, I do that one article that is just a constantly, frequently asked question, from a new 18-year-old kid that wants to do something in the military that everybody asks, right? And I just really try to nail that home with a good answer, right? So I can drive them, but also, hey, here's the book that's right for you, right? And here's the program you should consider.
Okay.
So it turns into a good little sales copy on the back end of it, but it answers the question at first.
Sure, and people want to do it. I have found that the most popular questions are how-to questions. That's like by far and away. How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I solve this problem? How do I reach this objective? How do I fix this? How do I avoid this? Those are the number one most popular questions. How do I increase my pull-ups? How do I write a book? How do I fix my website? That kind of a thing. I mean, that's got to be two-thirds of all the questions I do is how to do something, how not to get hurt, how, it's just some derivation of a how to. The next is related to tools, which is more like a what should I use in this situation? What should I do here? What does this mean? And this is going back to just regular high school English, who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Sure.
But it's not in that order. How is the most important. Next is what should I use for this? Some who questions, who should do this, who should, but it's funny how they all come back to some sort of an action. Who should do this? How do you do this?
Yeah.
What do I need to do this? And the questions that are the most popular ultimately are somebody needs to get from where they are to where they need to be. And there's either an action, a tool, a resource, a person, a missing bit of information that they need in order to go from here to here. And the other thing that I found with questions is some questions are better than others from the standpoint of they're pretty big, meaning you can't, how do I create a PayPal-like service? It's some questions are maybe, and help me out here, but some questions are like 35,000 feet questions.
Oh, absolutely.
10,000, 100 foot, and, right here. And you got to kind of answer it based on the type of question it is, because if somebody asks, how could I create a service like PayPal? You could answer that in 500 pages, or you could answer that in 500 words.
Right.
And so you gotta kind of look at this is more, this is as much feel as it is just experience and other stuff. I try and keep my articles around 500 to 1,000 words. I know there are some people, Google says that you need to have at least 1,400 words in order to be considered an authority and blah, 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 blah.
Is that right? Is that the number?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it? Yeah. I think because I do some editing for another website, a military style website, and the minimum standard that we can do there is 700 words.
Okay.
So I think 700 words has something to do with also, optimization for, search engines.
And every geek has their own little thing from the 3 or 4 tests that they've done, and all of a sudden it's gospel truth.
Yes.
And so
it's changed 3 times in 3 years.
Oh yeah. Or 3 times in the last week, depending on who's doing their thing. The point though, is that you answer the freaking question, but you got to do it in an article, not in a
not in an email. In fact, you know what I tend to do? I tend to go ahead and write the email, right, as I'm writing an article, right, and just ping it to them. But I cut and paste it, put it right into a document, and then now I have personalized a long email answer to this person, right? But then I've also created an article out of it. And so you kind of get a 2-for-1 deal, out of that. This person thinks, wow, you really went all out on answering this question. Right. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting you to just do more pull-ups. Right. But, I tell you, one of my favorite questions I like to get that I don't get enough of is a why question.
Okay.
Like, why do you do this? Why do you swim this far if you only need to test for this? Why do you do this many push-ups in this workout? I don't get that very often, but when I do, it makes me think, all right, why do I do it that way? And then I explain it, and it becomes a really neat type of feature article, right, for me. So it's another way to, instead of answering a question directly and saying, this is someone asked this question, it requires me to think a little deeper, and that actually gives me a little more meat for a bigger article that I don't call it a question article, but it answers that question in a broad way.
Well, it's interesting. Why questions are the most important in sales copy. They're the ones that give people reasons, or people are searching for a reason. But when people are looking at art, but thinking in those terms requires somebody to actually think and consider. And people don't want to think, and they don't want to consider. What they want to do is do what I call treating symptoms. So someone should be asking the question, why should I train 6 days a week and alternate between pyramids and supersets and max rep sets on a regular basis? And then why should I track my reps and use bands and do all this other stuff? That's the real question they should be asking.
Right.
But the question they ask is, how can I do more pull-ups by next Friday?
Right.
That's not the right question, but you can't tell them that because somebody else is going to write an article or give them information on how to do more pull-ups. So what you can do is do a jujitsu move of, okay, how do you do more pull-ups? Well, the short answer is you do this, 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 and this. Now, why do you want to be able to, why do you want to do more pull-ups for the long haul? Or, you know, here's another question you might want to consider. And you do that, you see what I mean? You
yeah, absolutely.
Do it.
You can answer it really quickly and then say, here's why.
Yeah.
Then that will add some content for you, you know, for that article that you're creating, instead of, because some answers are one word answers. Right. I mean, it's yes. You need to run more if you're going to join the military.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. There you go. That's right. Yeah. So if you want to do more I'll just use pull-ups. If you want to do more pull-ups, the short answer is do more pull-ups. Now, here's what you need to do and why.
Yes.
And boom, you know, there you go.
That's your content for an article right there. Yep.
So you can jujitsu them and still meet them where they are right now. It's, you know, the short answer and the long answer. And, you know, that's a perfect way to, just thinking about it, that's a perfect way to combine social media with your blog. So in social media, you know, so-and-so asked, how can I do more pull-ups? And the short answer is you need to do more pull-ups in, you know, in pyramid, superset, and max rep sets, but you need to do them in a specific order at a specific pace. And so if you want the rest of the story, here's how to do your pull-ups exactly and why we do them this way.
Yep. Here's a workout pulled from this book that will give you a 12-week program to quadruple your pull-ups.
To quadruple your pull-ups, right. Yeah. Without ever getting off the couch there, Tubby. So that's really cool. And this is good for us to talk about this stuff because it makes me think through why I'm doing what I'm doing and kind of, you know, because you do this stuff kind of half-assed, and then if you put a little thought into it, you might get a whole lot better effort.
And, you know, you always need to explain something that is fairly complex easy. Right. That is the true mastery of what you do, is when you can take a rather complex topic and break it down and make it easy to understand.
Yeah. Einstein said that if you want to prove how smart you are, it's basically you got, I don't remember the quote, but it's you're only smart if you can explain something simply. Right. But you think about it, if you explain why to somebody, that also elevates you, because typically who explains why? It's an authority figure.
Coach.
So, a coach, an expert, a guru, a teacher, they're the ones who are qualified to tell you why. And typically if you tell them why, then that gives you the authority to tell them the how. And then it also gives you the authority to give them the shortcut, or the perceived shortcut. And in this case, the shortcut would be a book. It would be an online video. It could be a piece of software. You know, that's interesting.
And throw a little testimonial in there from previous podcasts, and, you know, fluff up this article a little bit more and saying, hey, this guy did the, you know, pyramid superset max rep set combo, and look what he did. Yeah. Right. And in 3 weeks, he, you know, doubled his scores. Right.
Yeah.
So.
And then, so, I mean, that combo, that formula of how to, why to, or why it's important, and then shortcut or tool or resource for fastest results. And then plus micro proof, which is a mini testimonial, or I saw something. I was reading an ad today in Smithsonian Magazine for these. I read ads like other people read articles, especially when you see the ones that are real tiny print and they've got the headline, and you can tell. I mean, they're selling something, and those are really good ones to read to get some experience or get some cool insight. But one of the things they were doing for microproof was quoting government studies. So in this case, they were selling sunglasses, anti-glare sunglasses, and they were talking about the fact that, and this is funny, they were talking about making the case that most peak driving is done at the highest rate of glare during the day, in the early morning and late, when the sun's low in the sky. And this is supported by, and that's when most accidents, or they were saying something, they were inferring that most accidents occur then, but then it said you need these sunglasses to cut down on glare. In fact, according to a government study, 74% of all accidents happen on bright, sunny days. Now that makes sense, right? The government says that. Well, that's right, dumbass, because it only rains about 1 out of every 4 days. If you look at
statistically speaking, yes.
But that's not to say
the day will be sunny when you wreck.
Right. No, all wrecks occur on 74%. 74% of the way they did it, it was taking that proof and using it for a specific purpose.
Okay.
And so proof doesn't have to be a testimonial.
Right.
You could use something like, if you found some studies from the National Institute of Health or something like that, or some sort of military stuff that was saying that when people over 40 are 4 times more likely to suffer an exercise injury than somebody else, then that supports the mobility and other stuff, even though that statistic might actually come from the fact that they're including all the weekend warriors who decide that they're going to start working out 100 push-ups in a set after they haven't done a push-up in 40 years, and they hurt themselves and end up in the orthopedics ward. You just know that people over 40 are more likely to. So that proof is that this formula, how to, why to, and then a shortcut tool resource for faster results, plus some sort of micro proof about results. That is a killer combo. It's kind of like, I mean, if you think about it, it's almost like it's like a bullet formula. It's feature, benefit, meaning, proof.
Yep.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
So that's cool. Well, can you think of anything else we should tell people about creating content from questions? I mean, the only thing I could think of is the cool thing about answering questions is you can do it any kind of way you want. You can do it with a meme. You can do it with a video. You can do it with a live video. You can do it with a webinar. You can do it with an article. You can do it with a podcast. Any way that you could create content, you can create content simply from answering questions that are important to your target audience. If they don't know a question to ask, though, they're like, well, gee, I don't know what questions answers do, other than going, and they say, and I don't have a big following on social media, so I don't have people I could ask what the question is. How would you tell them, give them a couple, 3 ways to actually go find some questions they could answer?
Well, if you're selling something, I guarantee you have a customer asking you a question about something you're selling, right? Whether that's a product or a service or whatever, a book. And like for me, I have found that if someone asks a question about a sentence in a book, for instance, that may be confusing, right? It's time for me to go in there and update that book and make it less confusing.
What if you don't have a book? What if you're not selling
it a little better? Well, I'm getting to it all.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Like I said, it's one of those things where, whatever you have, there are questions that are are coming in around your products, right?
Okay.
Now, if you have never sold anything, you're probably not going to have any questions yet. However, you can always go to social media boards, groups, and ask a question yourself that will prompt other answers, and or maybe have an answer to a particular question. Like say, hey, I got asked this question the other day. Make it up, right? And here's my answer. What do you guys think of this, right? And then they said, well, you know, that's a good answer to that question. And, you know, you can do things like that. So, I mean, there's a couple of different ways to do it. I would suggest, you know, not throwing away emails. Don't just delete emails that come in. Actually use them to enhance your business by answering them, answering
Right.
questions, creating content from those questions. And, you know, making sure that, you know, the person that asked it actually gets an answer and is happy with that answer, and maybe even drive you it may even drive them towards that product or service that you're trying to sell. That's the number one goal of this content creation, is to create more content from the questions you get, drive them towards your store, and see if that works, even though it's a one-on-one thing. Now, the cool thing about it is you've created an article about it. Now you can share that article, open that up to the world on social media or to a newsletter or whatever. And now people can say, oh, he answers questions.
Right.
That's cool. So now I'll send them a question. Right? And
Right.
then on every page that you have, every email that you send, you should have a signature that says, hey, if you have any questions, just email me.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, that's a great one. And if you're really stuck, go on Google and put in your keyword and FAQ and question, and then do another search of questions. So, you know, copywriting questions, workout FAQ, push-ups, you know, how to do more push-ups, FAQ, whatever your keyword topic is, just go look and see and put in FAQ questions, problems, all sorts of stuff, and you'll start seeing the questions that people are asking.
You know, that's a really good idea.
Yeah. And it's
Google it. You ever see that website says, let me Google that for you? Oh my God, you got to see it.
What is it?
It creates this little video, and I think it's the initials of let me Google that for you.org or something like that. So it's like LM, that, you know, whatever. Let me Google that, LMG that for you. And it has your video of you typing their question, right? So how can I become a Navy SEAL, right? So it's you answering, you know, by how do I become a Navy SEAL, and hit the answer, you know, hit the Google button, and that's what you send them. So you said, I mean, I wouldn't do it that way, but, you know, sometimes some questions are just so like, hey, you know, this is reference material. I don't remember what weight a 45-year-old person in the Army needs to be for, you know, the maximum scale. That is a reference type question.
Right.
You know, let's go to Google and figure that out. Right. So it's, yeah, let me Google that for you is a really funny way to answer a question if you want to be a smart aleck.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, you know, it is what it is. Some people would go right over their head. They wouldn't even get it. Oh, hey, thanks. I appreciate that. You're shitting me, right? No, I appreciate that. So,
no,
I mean,
that's good. There's this Google thing.
Some of them may not be the
Pretty
best
amazing.
customer, but others may be. Who knows?
Yeah. Man? Do it with a friend. You know, make them laugh.
There you go. All right, man. Great job. And we will see you guys next time. If you're looking for a call to action, my thing would be to tell you to go write an article based on a question, or if you don't know what question to ask, go on social media and ask people what their questions are in a specific area. And if you don't know what social media is, then go on Google and put in your keyword plus frequently asked question, write yourself up an article, video, response, and start using it to market your business. And as always,
I'm going to do that, Jim. Instead of asking people what their favorite foods are for recovery, I'm going to Google food recovery frequently asked questions and see what happens today.
There you go. And we're going to have a new call to action as of this one. If you are a tactical athlete over 40 who needs to get in shape, or if you're someone who is a couch potato and the imprint in your couch is identical to the imprint from your butt down to the freckle on your left butt cheek, head on over to StuSmithFitness.com, grab yourself a couple of books, do what the books say, and you'll be in amazing shape just like Stu. Everybody have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Jim.